So, John, I want to thank you so much for speaking to me, because you have personally educated me so much in how to understand drug use in a context of trauma, and you've completely changed in my way of responding. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're going to talk to me today about how people like me can support, honour, understand people who are struggling with substance misuse in a trauma context, and that I think many of us are going to really, really benefit from. So the first thing I'd love to ask you is, like, what's your relationship to cannabis and why?
I think it started off recreationally, but became a sort of like a painkiller, basically. It's a means to get through the day, a means to relax, to be more sociable. Yeah, those things.
And do you mind me asking, like, why so hard to relax?
Because I grew up in an environment where it was a disadvantage to relax, to show any emotion or relax. A lot of sort of family conflict and problems. So I still really struggle with the relaxing. Yeah, always do.
Thank you so much for that, John. And thank you so much for showing us that actually, yeah, what you said was actually in my environment, which is a very traumatic environment and background, it would have actually been a disadvantage for you to relax. It would have been a bit crazy to relax in your environment. You benefited from being on kind of high alert in order to be safe, if that's fair to say. Thank you. And so you've kind of said, look, it was a survival mechanism. So can I just ask, what happens when you stop using cannabis? Like, what's the problem? What's it stopping happening?
It stops me wanting to go outside more. If it stops me wanting to sort of be, I become less sociable, less. I'm experiencing more pain, basically. So I'm feeling less comfortable around people.
Thank you. And when you say like it's experiencing, do you mind me asking, like, how bad? Sorry, and I know this is a really, feel free to tell me that you don't want to answer the question, but sometimes how bad does the pain get? What's the risks sometimes?
Sometimes I want to kill myself. Yeah, sometimes it gets very bad. Sometimes, you know, so suicidal thoughts. Yes. Maybe wanting to hurt other people, maybe feeling very angry and wanting to hurt other people. That's another thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, John. I really appreciate it, because I think it's important for me to understand that actually sometimes people are using drugs as actually a bit of a risk management and quite an effective, in some sense, risk management strategy, although it might cause other problems. I really appreciate you sharing that with me and educating me. So you got that sense of like it's saved your life actually at points, and it's been a survival mechanism. So thank you. And you've also kind of used this phrase of a sort of painkiller. Now, listening to you, I've often told people in my career, just stop smoking and it will solve your paranoia. I suppose, can you tell me like how professionals like me have responded to your cannabis use at times and what that's been like for you?
Yeah, sometimes you feel there's a judgment being made that that you shouldn't be doing this, and it makes your paranoia worse. I haven't found that myself, that it makes my paranoia worse. I found I found it and the judgment unhelpful, because it's basically a mechanism, a survival mechanism. As I say, I've used it as a survival mechanism. And the trouble is, a story gets told. And the story is, well, if you stop doing that, then you'd be okay. You know, you'd be less paranoid, and therefore you'd be better. You'd be weller. You'd be more well. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Yeah.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate that. And I just wonder about whether it's sort of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I wonder if sometimes that leads people to actually not telling us the truth in case they might be concerned about us withholding support services from them, or being critical instead of supportive. But you can help me. I don't know if
yes,
that's
I think it's important that you have like an honest, authentic relationship, and the fact that I've felt that I shouldn't talk about it, or I shouldn't admit that I've been using cannabis or whatever. then changes the dynamic of the conversations, and it makes you, yes, less, it makes you reluctant to talk about it frankly and openly.
And I might say as well, actually, if it's all right for me to say, John, we're having to use a false name and we're not revealing your identity in this conversation for the very reason that the thing that you're using as a legitimate coping mechanism, heroically at times, to stop you ending your own life or hurting somebody else, is so stigmatized that we are having to do this in a kind of, in this way. So I just think that just goes to show how much of a problem we have with, that's all right if you don't mind me saying that.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'd just love to know, like, so in some senses, for me to say that thing of like going, well, just stop using that, actually, when that's been a lifesaver for you, and maybe you might not know how to get from one side of the room to the other without using it, it saved your life. That hasn't been helpful. Can you tell me what has actually helped you? Because I'm witnessing you on such an extraordinarily dignified and graceful journey, I can only say, of like coming back home to yourself. What has been helping you?
I've found mindfulness very helpful with the counselling I had through the psychologist of the CMHT. I find the mindfulness, the basic principle of getting myself to live in being the present, and feel what I feel, and allow myself to feel what I feel, and know that I will get through, the worst of it, the worst hellish parts of it, thanks to mindfulness. That's a huge, it's a big help. Yeah, it's a huge help.
Thank you so much. And we must just so honour that psychologist for doing this, supporting you on this journey. What an incredible difference we can make to people's lives when we, and I think if I'm right in saying, you said mindfulness, and what I've witnessed you doing, but you can correct me if this is wrong, is that you've been practicing your skills in noticing when your critical self or ruminating self is starting to spike up, checking yourself, as Ice Cube would say, before we wreck ourselves. So you're starting to notice when that's happening. And when that's happening, your mindfulness is, you're going, right, I'm going to come back to the present. So I'm going to feel what I feel. I'm also going to what does this chair feel like? What can I see in the present? What can I feel in the present? I'm not going to fight my feelings. I'm going to just notice my feelings. And then when you've done that kind of noticing yourself in the present, you will then gently reorientate yourself to say, okay, what values am I chasing here? What matters to me? Is it connecting with others? Is it being kind to myself? And now I'm just going to gently reorientate myself back into that trajectory. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's exactly the process, and it's I've learned through these mindfulness lessons, sessions, to put myself into the present when I'm doing any task at all, anything that I'm doing, to focus on what I'm doing. If I make a cup of tea, to focus on the whole process of making that cup of tea, and in doing so, I'm more present in who I am, and more and less. And it's a less painful. It's not always a less painful place, but it's often. I feel more empowered by doing that. I feel I'm empowering myself.
I really like that point. So you said, like, Felicity, it's as simple as like when I'm making a cup of tea, I'm looking at my finger, I'm turning on the kettle, I'm listening to the sound of the kettle, I'm pouring and you're saying, actually, that gives me this sense of power in the moment, because I can't do anything about what happened to me 20 years ago, but I can do something about right now.
Yes, exactly.
The present. It opens up choice. So thank you. I would love you to tell me, like, what advice would you give to someone who's struggling to stop using a drug or a behavior, whether it's self-harm, whether it's hoarding, whether it's avoidance, any of those behaviors which have like saved our lives but can then become a bit of a problem? What advice would you give to someone who's struggling to stop doing those things? Because when you're in the middle of trying to stop, you can have that thing where you think, I can't get through this. This is too painful. I cannot cope. I can't resist this urge. Yeah. What might you advise people?
that you will get through it, and you just need various things to help with that. You just need as many things as you can. Yeah, i.e., people that care about you is always helpful. Again, mindfulness will help a little bit with this, and you know, and the fact that you get through the most hellish parts will make you feel that you, like, it's sustainable, like you're able to get through it. That the feeling of panic that you think, I'm not going to be able to get through it, will subside.
Wow.
However painful it gets.
Sorry, what did you say? Sorry.
However painful it gets, I was just saying.
However painful it gets. And actually the knowledge when you've got to the other side is very empowering for the next time that you're going to face it. Is that? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
John, thank you so much. I hugely appreciate this wisdom, and I can't thank you.
Thank you.